Hello friends, hi, this is Dr. Shonali Chandra, your Obscani faculty and educator at Prep Ladder. And I welcome you all to the session for today. This is going to be a very quick, get to know each other discussion session. So Mohammed, Tufail, Oasis, good evening to you guys. I can read your comments, so just waiting for all of you to log in. I'm reading your text as and when the lecture is going to proceed. It's not a lecture actually, but just a session. And what we're going to talk about is how to prepare for NEET PG with internship, right? Recently the exam got wrapped up. Final year exams happened a couple of months ago. So a lot of you now are actively pursuing your internship and you're wondering, first of all, whether or not you should prepare, right? Now, one thing is that a lot of you maybe have already done your fair bit of main content reading and preparation early on. Also, a number of you may have started in second year, third year, final year also you were doing your preparation. So, wo ongoing process mein you must have been there. However, there are, I'm sure, a number of you who are not happy with your preparation up till now, and you're thinking that, okay, internship only, should I prepare or not prepare? Okay, maybe previously you have not prepared and this now you are in internship, right? Or it is also true for those of you who are probably working right now. Maybe you've taken up a house job somewhere and you're working, right? So one thing is that yes, you should prepare first of all, right? Why? Because even if you're in your internship, you've not prepared earlier, this is your first preparation. It should be at least as good as your subsequent preparations, if at all. See, one thing is that you may clear it in the first attempt. It is very much possible, particularly because your clinical subjects are still very fresh. Okay, so it is very much possible, very much doable. And if in case one does not make it in the first attempt, in the internship attempt, I mean, in my days, we used to call it as the zero attempt. So in case one does not make it through, you have done a subsequent bit of your preparation already. So your subsequent preparations will be much easier. So one thing we are clear that it is definitely doable, achievable goal. Okay, so the game plan has to be, see, you have to work around your own schedule first of all, right? And how to approach reading a subject is very important key principle I'm going to tell you about. Okay, there is a lot of importance has to be given to attempting the grand test. There is no shortcut around it, right? Attempt the grand test, right? And there are certain timelines that you have to follow, you should be following. Keep them in mind. Okay, one need not be too rigid about the timelines, but you have to work around your own schedule. So basically we come to that only. And I'll tell you the common mistakes to avoid, right? Now, I am reading through all your comments as and when the session is going to go ahead. I'm first going to go ahead with the slides and I'm going to, in the end, take up a Q&A session where I'm going to take up all your questions one by one. So if you remember some question, put it on the chat box, I'll read it along, okay? So to begin with, working around your schedule. देखो क्या है कि you should be focusing on your clinical postings and rounds. Okay, these days in NEET PG, even in INI-CET, even in FMG, what we are seeing is that they are asking you questions which probably are not written in textbook, right? They will ask you which color is the cannula, which color cannula is which gauge, right? What is it used for, right? So very practical questions. Also, they tend to ask, if I talk about my subject, that is obstetrics and gynae, a lot of question comes from, labor room dynamics and labor room protocols, right? So you should be focusing on your clinical postings and rounds, right? Keep that in mind. The other thing is, make the most of your light postings. Dekho, when you enter into your internship, na kya hoga ke, again, what schedule or where you will be posted is not in your hands. Right. So maybe sometimes, going on an internship, you are given a set of light postings and or maybe some light postings and some heavy postings, right? The only time where you will get to do most of your reading is in the light posting. There you will do most of your reading. right? Now light postings would be, doesn't mean that you will not go only to the hospital. Maybe yes, you go in 8 in the morning and then you come back by about 4 or 5 in the evening, right? That much you will get your light posting. So even after let's say you come back from a posting, eat and then rest and sleep for a couple of hours, you can manage, let's say 4 to 6 hours of prep time during those light postings. So those are very crucial. Light posting will be, for example, different colleges may have different, different grades and intensity of work in your posting. But in general, like Dharma, PSM, until unless you are going for a rural posting in PSM, anesthesia, ophthal, these are your, most of the times, your light postings, all right? So you have to make use most of that. The other thing is that obviously you will make a broad framework. Okay, this month I have to, because you will get your schedule, light postings mein I have to do my subjects which are high weighted subjects. वो light postings में उनको निपटाओ, because most of your reading you will do in your light posting. So for your major subjects, for your heavy weighted subjects, you complete them in your light postings, right? So that broad idea you have, right? When you have your heavy postings, let's say, then you can go for your minors, right? Minors में क्या होगा कि if you going to complete your short subjects there, it will, let's say, sort of give you a sense of completion कि हाँ भाई ये हो गया एक बार, right? So that you can do in your heavy posting or medium heavy postings, like that. एंड सो एक मंथली टारगेट सेट हुआ आपका, मंथली आपने एक माइंड में बनाया. अदर देन दैट यू हैव टू डिमार्केट वीकली एंड डेली टारगेट्स ऑल्सो. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Every day what you have to read, every week what you have to cover, it should be very clear to you. You have to work around your schedule, right? So demarcate weekly and daily targets. And heavy postings which are like emergency postings, right? Surgery, medicine, where you are doing ward work also, where you are doing a lot of brunt work also, running around here and there. So exhaustive hoti hai, emergencies hoti hain. We have night postings. So with that sort of postings, I mean, I think it is better to take a breather rather than to have a burnout, right? Taking care of your health is equally important. So in your heavy postings, what you can tend to do is just stay light on your preparation. Don't say that I will give up the preparation altogether. Abhi to I'm very tired, I will not do anything. Not like that. In your heavy postings, you take a breather. I mean that you can stick to maybe just doing the PYQs, previous year questions. So when you do that, maybe what you can do is you will get an idea about what are the frequently asked questions, frequently asked topics, frequently asked areas. Many times we are not aware that what are my strong areas, what are my weak areas. Many times it is like that. So take that opportunity, hai na? Get to know which are your strong areas, which are your weak areas, like that. Then let subject weightage decide the time you are going to give to that particular subject. As simple as that. Okay, and you can adjust according to whatever grand test or test that you're giving, mock test that you're giving. You can adjust your time allocation accordingly. I'll give an example. You'll have to prioritize higher weightage areas. Higher weightage areas, higher weightage subjects these days, and what we're seeing the trends from the past 5 years, exams, is your medicine and allied, like medicine along with patho and pharma. Very good chunk of questions get asked, 30-35 questions in that zone itself. Surgery and allied, like anatomy. Obs gynae, PSM. These are your major areas, or major higher weightage areas from which questions are asked in huge numbers. Especially surgery and OBG tend to be very scoring also. PSM tends to be very scoring also. So you allocate more hours to subjects where obviously more questions are going to be asked from. The other is that you will have subjects in the lower weightage area also. But see, it is not a good idea to not do a subject altogether, to leave a subject altogether, because what will happen is from the low weightage area, some repeated question will be asked, or some some previous year topic will be asked, and you have not touched that at all. Then you will do a question wrong which everybody else might attempt correctly, right? So for your lower weightage subjects, keep them in touch, regular short touch points. What I mean by that is, You can just go attempt, MCQs of those lower weightage subjects. At least that you can do. And accordingly, as and when you are going to keep giving your grand test, keep giving your mock test, you will keep figuring out your weak areas and your strong areas, and you will keep readjusting this based on your performance. Fun thing is this, right? Get this idea, right? So subject weightage decides how much time you give to that subject. Now, next question, what did I tell you? I will tell you about how to read a subject. Okay, coming back to the subject weightage, right? So there's two approaches that we tend to follow when we read. One is prospective, one is retrospective approach, right? Your primary focus as of now, when you are preparing in and while doing your internship, has to be previous year topics. Okay, everybody, all your faculties emphasize on the importance of previous year topics, especially from the last 5 years. Okay, they repeatedly ask you, right? And previous year topics may, what you need to keep in mind is that they tend to repeat the question. You may think that it is the same question getting repeated, but maybe it is a twisted question, or it will have very close options like that. Okay, that is why previous year topics have to be very thorough. So that has to be a primary focus, right? Now, let's say supposing there is a subject which has a low weightage, okay, or a medium weightage. You can follow the retrospective approach. What I'll say, see, because the crunch is time crunch. Crunch is time crunch. And you have to condense everything and all your subjects you have to prepare in this 1 year period. And I'm allowed not even say 1 year, because effectively you will get 9 to 10 months basically. Okay, you leave out entire year, you will not prepare. So retrospective approach mein you go for the MCQs. Okay, you read the explanations. If you feel that you are falling short somewhere, or you need to read more somewhere, okay, then you go in a retrospective manner to the main text. In the main text, I mean to say, you can go back to the main notes also, if that is sufficing, or you can go back to the video also, if that works for you. Okay, whichever ways you are able to grasp better. So that should be your retrospective approach. Then in your high weightage areas, high weightage subjects, okay, one strategy is that you go system wise / topic wise, whichever way. Okay, system wise / topic wise in that particular high weightage subject. In that particular subject, you go system wise or you go topic wise, right? And then you have your weak areas. In that particular subject, you have your weak areas. For weak areas, you go for prospective approach. I mean, prospective approach would be you do the main videos, right? In this year's NEET PG examination, we found a lot of questions in your high weightage subjects which could be attempted if you had seen the main videos, because they required a more depth of conceptual understanding, right? So main videos, and you do the MCQs. In this, you have to, in your weak areas, you have to watch the main videos. In your strong areas, when you realize that you have already read the topic, you're already very thorough with it, you're already very strong with it, there you can follow the retrospective approach, meaning you just see the rapid revision videos, plus you do the MCQs. Even after doing this, it is quite possible that it was your strong area, that is what you thought. But even after watching the rapid videos, even after watching the MCQs, maybe there are areas you're falling short. Maybe there are questions you're not able to attempt. Then you can go and to the main videos for those, for those topics or areas. That is why I write areas, because this could be different for different people. Okay, it could be a particular system. Like for example, for us, most of us will find that the neurology, neuroanatomy, this comes difficult to us, right? So, or it could be a particular topic, or it could be a particular system. Now, the other thing is systemic multi-subject approach, because these days what we are getting is a lot of integrated questions. Integrated questions. What do we understand by integrated? You see, integrated questions is that, they give you a, if you read this through the stem of the question, they give you a clinical situation, a scenario. You read through the entire thing, and the question that they ask you is about something very basic, anatomy correlation, or a patho correlation, or a biochemistry correlation, right? So those sort of integrated questions they ask. So it is very important that you, when you know already that integrated questions are being asked these days, so you should, your strategy towards practicing questions, your strategy towards reading a subject should also be integrated. Like for instance, anatomy, surgery, they will be integrated together, right? You read some surgical topic and you at the same time do the surgical anatomy of that topic as well. Medicine, you will be able to integrate with physiology, okay? You will be able to integrate with pathology also, okay? You will be able to integrate with pharmacology also. See, pharma is a standalone subject also. So, there are a lot of standalone subjects, okay? There are a lot of standalone subjects. OBG is a standalone subject and very scoring. OBG is a standalone subject and very scoring. Other than that, PSM becomes standalone subject. On the other hand, your forensic medicine and toxicology standalone subject. So there are a lot of standalone subjects also, and your your minors are tend to be standalone subject. But among your majors, yes, OBG, PSM standalone subject. Biochem standalone subject, because a lot of cycles and tables and you need to keep revising, and a lot of rote learning involved there also. And pharma a standalone subject. But still, I will like to tell you that you should try to integrate pharma in your medicine, physiology, patho also. If there is any drug you are using in a particular situation, you should be thinking about why you are using it there, what are the side effects if you use it there, like that. Okay, so just to give you a broad perspective regarding this, regarding multi-system integrated subject approach. I'll give you an example also. So the point is that you have to weave the related subjects. I'll just undo this, right? You have to weave the related subjects so that you concept the cements better, and every session, once you are doing that type of study, take a mixed MCQ block from that system. What I mean by mixed MCQ block from that system, if you are reading a cardiovascular system, for example, okay, then you do the medicine questions from CVS, and you do the physio questions, you do the patho questions, you do it together, do that entire block together. Like for example, scenario, let's just talk about the cardiovascular system only. What are you going to integrate? Like for example, you start with a chest pain scenario, you start with a heart failure scenario or a hypertension scenario, right? You integrate the pathology into it, the common pathologies, atheromas, atherosclerosis, rheumatic heart disease patterns, right? And you have to revisit the physiology also, Starling curve, preload, afterload, what is preload, what is afterload, what are the basics of blood pressure control, all of these things. So you integrate them, right? And how do you execute it? What it means, you start with the clinical case, then you have a lot of differential diagnosis to do. And with those differential diagnoses, you try to map it to the pathology and the physiology sections also, right? So this is how you are going to integrate, and when you study, make it a habit. Okay, make it a habit, it will work for most of your clinical areas, right? Solving a mixed MCQ set the same day, and you create the flashcards and flowcharts also. I'll come to this flashcards and flowcharting and everything and jotting down the notes, because I just running through your comments, I just saw somebody talking about handwritten notes and everything. So I will talk about it in a while, I'll take it up, right? Then the other thing is top down or bottom up approach. These are the two kinds of approaches that we tend to follow when we read. Okay, I'll give you examples. See, ultimately, if you're talking about INI-CET and even the NEET PG this time, and even in last year, a lot of clinical, more and more chunks of clinical questions are being asked, less of factual and rote learning questions are not being asked, right? So there's something, we climb a ladder, okay? We climb a ladder from the basics. Basics are basically your first year foundation subjects, second year foundation subjects, and then ultimately, yes, all that translates into our final year subjects where we are, dealing with cases and case scenarios. Okay. So top down, what is top down? Top down is you start from the case. You start from the case or symptom cluster, in the sense that a patient came with complaint of headache, or patient came with gynae mein dekh lo, you came with complaint of vaginal bleeding or whatever, right? And then you have a list of differential diagnosis. For that, obviously, you'll have to remember a number of causes also. And you then go back to concepts. So you have the differential diagnosis in place, okay? And you compare the differential diagnosis. Like for example, if you're talking about vaginal bleeding, okay, it could start from the cervix, it could start from the uterus. If you're talking about abnormal uterine bleeding, then palm coin approach, what is the possible causes, polyp, adenomyosis, fibroid, leiomyoma and all that. How are they similar? How are they different? Okay, so that sort of comparing and learning. So use foundational concepts as needed while you are doing this top-down approach, right? So because what happens is that it cements your concepts, Okay, once you do the differential diagnosis approach, it cements your concepts which are needed for you to solve clinical MCQs and decision making. The other thing is bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach would be, let's say for example, you started with this top-down approach, you realize that yeah, it is not working. Why? Because you're lagging. Where are you lagging? Your concepts are only not clear. So n number of flowcharts are handed over to you, information is fed to you, you have it in front of you, you're still not able to attempt questions. Why? Because you repeatedly miss the basics in MCQ for that particular symptom or topic, right? Sometimes I told you, the flowchart is in front of you, you have memorized the flowchart, but questions are not being attempted correctly. Because the pathways of physiology, your own flowcharts, or somebody else has created notes and their flowcharts and those diagrams, they are not making sense to you, right? So those are unclear. I'm not saying not make sense entirely, but they may be unclear. They not may be crisp and concise, and clarity nahi hai. There's no clarity, right? Then in those particular systems, those particular topics, bottom up. Start from the bottom, go back to your basic short concept rescue, then you return to the case, right? So you use both, you use them intentionally, you use them intelligently, you switch between these two techniques smartly. Okay, figuring out what works for you. How do you figure out what works for you? You have to test yourself, otherwise it is not happening. You have to give these grand tests, I would say a reasonable target, an achievable, doable, reasonable target is every 15 days. Yes, as you near your exams, you can make it every week, you can make it daily grand test also in the last 10-15 days. That is another strategy, which is a different strategy altogether, but this is a bare minimum that should be done. Now, what are these grand tests? Why do you do this? See, you do this, you fix a time that you are going to do this at this particular designated time and you stick to it. The point here is this, that nobody is going to hold a stick to your head apart from you yourself in these circumstances, right? When you attempt the grand test, you will obviously attempt wrong questions also. Don't be scared of your score. I don't even look at your score in the beginning. I'm trying to tell you. See, review, you are testing yourself, okay? Review why each wrong happened. Like for example, why did I attempt this question wrong? Why did it went wrong? Was I did not understand the concept, that is why I attempted this wrong. If you don't understand the concept, it is likely that you are going to get confused between two very close looking options, okay? Is it because I have not memorized some information, some fact correctly? I'm wrong with the facts. Some factual information you may be remembering incorrectly. Is it that the reason, right? Or you are simply misreading the question. A lot of times it happens that all except tend to misread the question. Why are you making mistakes is a question that you need to ask yourself again and again, repeatedly, every time. And one important thing, don't wait to finish the syllabus before attempting gram test. Okay, this is something that a lot of us do. Maybe I have also done it in my days, when you are so scared of attempting because it is very demoralizing. Okay, अच्छा नहीं लगता है. It feels very bad when you give a test and then you don't perform well. So do not attach your worth to the grand tests initially. What I mean to say is, because finishing the syllabus, that thing probably will never come. Secondly, if you don't do the grand test, you do not realize where you are making mistakes. The time that you will pick up the grand test, if you say that later on I will do them, then it is very difficult to correct those mistakes and learn from them. So start doing the grand test from the daily go. Now, why this works? Testing, self-testing, giving grand test, important cue. Why it works? Active recall, better retention. What are we meaning by this? A lot of the times, what we tend to do, and we've all done this, we believe that slogging for hours on the desk, just keep reading, rereading again and again is what revision is. Our whole strategy or our whole concept of learning is kind of distorted. We feel that persistence is the key, whereas smart learning is the key. right? So what happens is that you keep just rereading your notes is not revision, okay? What revision is that you've read something, you understood the concept, you close your book and then you try to recall what I remember about this topic, okay? And you make down, if you want to jot it down with flowcharts for yourself, you do that, okay? So in this process of active recall, obviously you will forget certain things and then you can go back to your notes. So this process of trying to remember is what helps you remember, period. That is what it means, okay? And this sort of active recall, that is why I say attempting tests is a way for active recall. If you don't attempt tests, you have never practiced. If you're not attempting tests at a regular basis, you're not testing yourself, you're not practicing active recall, and you can fool yourself. One can keep fooling themselves that I'm revising, and at the end what happens is that on the exam, while solving questions, answers don't come, even though you have read the topic multiple times, even though you have understood the concept multiple times. And also giving grand tests will help you highlight where you are lacking. If you're going to go for only notes based study, just reading notes, you will not know where are your knowledge gaps, right? So please understand, guys, that first of all, giving these grand tests is not going to don't look at the rank. You are competing with everybody else, obviously that is true. Finally, though, obviously you are all competing against each other. But first of all, you are competing with yourself, right? Because your own performance in each grand test should be improving. So first of all, compete with yourself, and obviously grand tests give you an idea about the timing, stamina, decision making and everything. It will give you a feel of the exam. So don't run away from them, start doing them. Now build your revision engine early. Quickly I will go through it, okay? Try to stick to timelines. What do I mean by it, right? See, your starting material could have been anything. Your starting material could have been notes that you have made, could have been notes you're reading from somewhere. Your starting material could have been main videos, rapid revision videos, whatever, right? But you have to build your revision engine early. So the first 7 to 8 months, for the first 7 to 8 months, let's say 30% of your time you are giving for revision. That is why I'm writing R. 30% of your time slot of study is going to revision for the first 7 to 8 months. So you're doing more of your first time reading, let's say. So you're reading the lectures, you're reading the notes. Don't stop there. Distill into your own flashcards, MCQs and flowcharts, right? So like I said, even with, what happens is when you're making flashcards or when you're making flowcharts, okay, what you'll do is that you'll make the flowchart and then you'll just keep looking at it. Or you'll just keep mugging it up, that point A, B, C, D, like that, okay? So this phase. But the point is that when you're given a clinical question in your exam, right, then what happens is that in that clinical scenario, and especially when multiple options are given, close options are given, again you falter for answer. Why does that happen? Because you did not practice recalling information. What I want to say is, when you make your own material, like for example, you're making flowcharts, try to leave some information in that flowchart. Leave it out, leave it for recall. Maybe at the back side, you write that information so that you are trying to remember. If everything you are running past your eyes, then you are not trying to remember actively. Similarly for flashcards, question in front, answer behind the flashcard, like that. So bite-size prompt for quick revision. Basically what I want to say is, if you are not going to keep time for revision for a particular topic or a particular subject, if you're not going to revise it later, there is no point reading it the first time also. If you're not revising, it's not going to come back to you on the day of the examination. In the last 2 to 3 months of your preparation time, you should be giving 80% of your entire study time to revision. 80% of your time slot should be going to revision. First reading should be kept minimum. Revise from the content that you have created for yourself, that this is from where I'm going to revise. Mix subject blocks to simulate exam feel. So many times what happens is that you decide, okay, let's say for example, I have a revision slot in my last 2 to 3 months. I have the revision slot. So I can divide it into slots like for 1 hour, I will do previous year topics. Okay. For 1 hour, I will do previous year questions. I have a dedicated time slot for giving the grand test also. Right. And when you are doing previous year topics, you can mix the subjects. Mixing the subjects in your last leg of revision is always a good idea. I'll tell you why. You read a topic, immediately after that you do the MCQs from that topic. You do well, obviously. Okay. In your exams, what happen is you get a question from patho, then you get a question from elsewhere or surgery or gynae. It doesn't come to you in a subject wise manner. It does not come to you in a topic wise manner. Okay. So try to mix subject blocks to simulate exam feel, avoid new sources in the last time and up on your GT. So in the last leg, obviously your frequency of giving GTs will increase. Okay. Now, whatever your starting material is, whether it is main videos, whether it is your notes, it is not going to be revisable in the end if you have not condensed it. So you have to condense your material into revisable material that you will keep revising. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, the common mistakes that I tend to see in students, and also sometimes I've made them myself also. So the common mistakes is that you need to avoid is basically, again, like I said, leaving grand tests for the end after I finish the syllabus. A lot of us do it, but let me tell you, again, I understand seeing a low score can be demoralizing, but get over it. It is not. It is just your starting point. Be kind to yourself. The other thing is running away from weak subjects, running away from weak areas. You just don't want to touch it. You feel that, okay, strong koi, you keep building stronger. No, don't do that. Don't run away from weak subjects. Don't run away from your weak areas. If your weak areas are high weightage areas, you need to focus on them, right? The other thing that you need to avoid is passive reading without practicing questions. Okay, this is the biggest mistake I see in students who keep rereading the material. Then they think that I am not able to revise it in the end, right? Keep highlighting, highlight everything, and then you feel that on the examination maybe some magic window will flash in front of your eyes, and I used to think that magic window will flash in front of my eyes and then I will remember with color I marked and multiple colors I have marked, but on the examination table it becomes hazy, it becomes blurry, it is not clear because everything was highlighted. So keep highlighting to the minimum, don't do passive reading. Active recall is the key. So these are the common mistakes. Face your weak spots and you have to cut the procrastination. You have to, let's say, take this opportunity. Internship is the time. Enjoy also in between. Take your regular breaks and everything. But do start because you may clear it in the first attempt, and or you may get a boost. You may get an initial good. You may get an initial rank. You may get a boost for your subsequent preparations if needed. And wrapping up, I'll say it's very important to study smart, not necessarily to study everything. And now I'll take up your questions here. So, any question? I don't know. P square facts, if PSM Lenu is a question directed towards me. If you feel that you like the branch, then you can go ahead and take it. Who am I to stop you? And Kavita, I'll look up your concern with the team. Okay. And Jency, only listening to lectures and skipping notes is okay to study for upcoming FMGE. See, if you listen to the lectures and it is helping you attempt the questions correctly without reading the notes, because most of the times whatever is in the lecture is just written in the notes form. So you can read the lecture, you can listen to the lecture, watch the video and make your own flow chart or make your own short notes or revisable notes instead of going through the notes, you know, कि वीडियो भी देखें अलग से you know नोट्स भी पढ़ें, वो आप अवॉइड कर सकते हो. या फिर विज़ा विज़ दूसरा भी करते हैं लोग, सिर्फ नोट्स पढ़ते हैं, वीडियो नहीं देखते हैं, विच एवर वेज, राइट. सो इट्स क्वाइट, yes, it is quite doable listening to the lectures and skipping the notes. But then if you are doing that, make sure it is working for you. If you try it, okay, you read the you just watch the video, if that is helping you attempt the questions, it's a good idea. But then don't forget, if you are you know just watching the video of a lecture, you have made your own flowchart or flashcard or some revisable chunk of notes from there, if you're not reading the notes that have been provided to you. Okay. Sumi, I have already done my last posting. I have not studied that time. That is very unfortunate. I mean, maybe some more light postings are left, and so what can I say? Maybe some middle postings are left. Some you know medium to light postings are left. Maybe then you can make a use of that. Otherwise, now I would, if that was the strategy, that was the thing that I would have, you know, just gone through my last you know light postings doing nothing. I probably would have just sticked to rapid revision videos and previous year topics and MCQs. That's all. Right. Rahul Tyagi, in non-clinical, can we take MD non-clinical? Of course, I mean, you can take, I mean, who's stopping you from taking whatever you want or whatever is available to you? But then you have to think about if that is what you want. Now, Siddharth, you had asked, is it smart to make handwritten notes while preparing for INI-CET and NEET PG as an intern? Like I said, Pachesi, I personally also feel, and I believe that you should, if you ask your seniors also, the process of writing and making your own notes helps. Right, and I do understand that making it the first time is effortful. Yeah, it requires effort, it takes time. Okay, so when you are in the crunch of time, in the sense, Siddharth, if you tell me that you have never done this, you've never written your own notes, and you're preparing for INI-CET NEET PG and you want to start from zero, I'll make my own notes for everything. Now that is excessive. That is an extreme strategy, right? So now you have to be intelligent about it. You have to work in your own time frame, around your own schedule, where you are doing duties. So you can maybe do it for your high weightage areas. You can maybe do it for those topics where where more conceptual learning is required, and you know your weaker areas, higher weightage areas, or clinical scenarios or situations from where questions are definitely asked. So that is again why you need to appear for the grand test. That is why you need to see the previous year questions to get an idea about the frequently asked areas, right? So in those particular, when you read those particular high weightage areas, you can make the notes, right? Even if you cannot make your own notes entirely, I say see again, people feel that, you know, making notes is a huge task because you want to write everything that is in the video, right? Why making notes also becomes difficult for many people is that you feel that writing everything that is in the video is important. No, it is important that you write that you remember from the flowcharts and highlight the concept that is driven in the flowchart or in a given clinical situation. So that will help. So you can make concise notes. So that way you can, you know, Siddharth, make your own handwritten notes, make them more concise, make it for high weightage areas. Right now, thank you, Sangmesh. Thank you for your kind words. And sometimes you have doubts, but you don't have Insta. That's okay. In fact, it is quite good that you don't have Insta, but you can, you know, send me your doubts on Telegram also. So yes, I do have a Telegram channel where you can send me your doubts as well. And you got a rank of 65,000 in NEET PG. Is it possible for me to get a rank of under 500 in upcoming INI-CET? Has it happened to someone else before? Palash, I mean, has it happened to someone else before? Now that depends. Sometimes people mess up an exam because of something that may have happened that day, on that particular day of the examination, and then the examination messes up, and then they have gone to perform better. So yes, it has happened, it could happen, right? But then you have to, instead of asking this question to me, you should be asking this question to yourself, because who knows better how you have ended up preparing rather than you yourself, right? So again, like I said, that it is possible, but again, be realistic and ask this question to yourself, right? Now, Manoj, I have nothing to say to that. And Preetham, how to prepare for NEET PG seriously from third year? From third year onwards, if you're saying that you want to prepare for NEET PG seriously, though this is off the Q&A that we are happy, though this is off the topic, but what I want to tell you is, if I were to prepare from third year onwards, I would devote more time to the main videos. Again, when I'm doing the main videos, I would always go for MCQs, right? I would always go for MCQs alongside, do the necessary work of making notes, making flowcharts and revisable condensed information. From third year onwards, if I'm starting to prepare, I will not take too much load of it. However, I will also say that I would go for my clinical postings diligently, right? Don't skip that part. Don't skip that part. And if I'm starting from third year onwards, I would say, and I hope that in your first year and second year, you read the textbooks, the standard textbooks. So if you are starting early, I think it is very important for undergraduate students to get back to reading textbooks, right? That's very important. That is something that is dying out. So if I would, when I, in fact, we all have gone through, this, when we did our undergraduation and preparation and everything, we had textbooks and MCQs. So get back to textbooks. Now, Sangmesh, you're currently in final prof. How to study for prof exams? Because because the approach is different, because you have to write long sheets in exam. Sangmesh, I have been a very good performer in my theory exams, right? I did not write long sheets. Honestly, honest to God. In my theory exams, I made flowcharts. Nobody, trust me, I've been an examiner, I've checked papers. Nobody is reading long sheets, okay? And the teachers know if a student knows the answer. It's not about filling long sheets, it's about showing that you know. So if it's a question, theory question, long question, write the clinical management approach to a patient with headache, let's say, for example, or then what do you write about it? The same thing, the same approach that I told you here about, right, in this session. That is what you write. You write, okay, a question of a woman came, a person came with the complaint of headache. What are the different types of headache that you're going to ask in history? How is it different? How do you arrive at the diagnosis? What investigations do you order? How do you have a treatment plan in place? This is how you write a clinical management question. And instead of filling sheets, you make flowcharts, you'll fetch marks, I'm telling you. Then short notes are okay, doable. Short notes, I would keep in mind that I have to write 5 major points about a particular short note. I would say minimum 5 major points about a particular topic, I would say. So that is what is important to note. And then sometimes in theory questions for final year profs, that it happens sometimes that, they ask you from a clinical perspective, they ask you questions about explain the pathophysiology of something and then write about the diagnosis. So then again, even in pathology, I make flowcharts and diagrams. Now, sometimes I always get this feedback that, diagrams, I can't make good diagrams, I cannot make, good looking diagrams. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, just a diagrammatic representation. It does not has to be a fancy diagram or whatever. You have to convey that you know. Best way to convey that you know is in not in filling sheets, but giving it to the examiner in a manner. That is why I say, when you practice making your own notes, you practice writing your answer also. That is what you'll write in your answer. I'm sure you'll fetch marks. Okay, Sangmesh. Shah, you got a rank of 20K. I don't think I'll get medicine at that rank. What's the strategy for me? Please share. Thank you in advance. So, Shah, if medicine is the branch that you want and you're very keen on it, and if you feel that at your rank you will not get it at all, so then your strategy should be that if you're not willing to change your branch, if you're not willing to take up, if you're not willing to compromise on the branch, then you have to take the decision, the difficult decision of maybe dropping another year and preparing again. So that is, and if you feel that your preparation was lacking and you do feel that you would be able to put in the required strategy and the effort of another year of preparation, another year of uncertainty because you want the branch so bad, who is anybody to stop you, or who am I to stop you? So there's certain questions that we need to honestly ask ourselves first. Okay. Now, how to prepare post-intern student? See, the principles that I've shared in the video today, okay, Dr. Medico plus post-intern student, the principles that I've shared, okay, the basics of learning, the strategies of, again, those strategies remain the same. If you're an intern or you're a post-intern, whenever you're going to make your schedule, you're going to plan for the coming year. Hannah, you're going to plan for the coming year, keeping in mind that, okay, out of 12 months, you will not devote entire 12 months. You will have effective 9 to 10 months of preparation. You will form your strategy like that only. So it is similar. Being a post-intern, yes, of course, you will have more time to dedicate because you'll not be attending duties, right? Because you'll be preparing at home. If you're doing a job, that's another matter. Okay, so the only difference is that with internship, maybe you have a time crunch, so you want to just focus on the bare minimum. When you have time at hand, then of course you have the opportunity of working on your weaker areas as well. So that is the only difference. Okay. Preetam, how do we give sufficient अच्छा डॉक्टर मेडिको प्लस हाउ टू जस्ट प्रीतम कमिंग बैक टू योर क्वेश्चन हाउ टू प्रिपेयर पोस्ट इंटर्न जॉब करूँ या स्टडी करूँ रैंक इम्प्रूव नहीं हो रही क्या करूँ सो देखो अपने को तो एनालाइज करो कि रैंक इम्प्रूव क्यों नहीं हो रही है एक्चुअली क्या आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी में गड़बड़ है क्या कि क्वेश्चंस क्यों नहीं क्लियर हो रहे हैं एंड रही बात जॉब करूँ या स्टडी करूँ दैट विल डिपेंड अपॉन कि आपको जॉब क्यों करनी है right? Is it because of financial reasons or some other reasons that you want to go for a job, right? Because doing a job will cut on your study time. Plus, if you have just completed your internship and you do not have a compelling reason for a job, then you can devote an entire year to studying also. Considering that you know where your preparation was lagging in the first go. Okay. Now, how to give sufficient time to read standard textbook? Because of internals, we can't properly read the books. We just depend upon the notes to pass the exams. How do we give sufficient time to read standard textbooks? I think ये तो फिर एक अलग ही topic है for discussion, maybe for another video altogether. The question that you have asked, Preetam, is a very valid question. I understand that where it is coming from, that particularly because maybe that over the years, over the couple of years, we have seen that standard textbooks, students are not reading. So even your seniors who are there when you enter the college, much of your guidance comes from your immediate seniors. So they've not read standard textbook, their seniors have not read standard textbook, that is what has percolated. So I understand where it is coming from. But standard textbooks for undergraduate level, you can read at least for the, then again you have to study smart now. Like I'll give you an example. Preetam. Robbins is a very good, amazingly good standard textbook for pathology. Amazingly good. Okay. Now again, you don't need to read it cover to cover. You need to read the general pathology from there. It is such it is so beautifully written, right? You can skip the systemic part also. So again, it comes down to studying smart. Like for example, anatomy. I remember in my anatomy days, everybody reads BD Chaurasia. That is a very good crisp textbook which we tend to read and which we tend to revise. And then again clinical standard textbook could be your reference textbooks. Keep the curiosity alive. Just don't study to just pass theory, pass exam. Yeah. If there is a clinically correlation anatomy, we had Snell's anatomy, that is a standard textbook. So beautifully clinical anatomy is given beautifully. Your teachers do this job for you. For this you watch the videos, for this you watch the content, right? So yes, we do that in our videos. But then again, you can go back to standard textbooks also, make use of them as a reference textbook. Okay, so that is one way that you can do it. But again, this is a very good question that you asked anyways, right? Now, Ankit Singh Chauhan, prep ladder lecture sufficient for concept clearing or not? Yes, of course. With each subsequent revision of the content, okay, we keep improving, we keep understanding your requirements, we keep working on it, we keep working on the content to make it crisp, revisable and conceptual at the same time, right? So we do that, right? So Manoj, thank you so much dear for your kind words, and Dr. Sangmesh. I understand your doubts. You have seen my lectures and you have understood them, but solving questions you have confusion between the different treatment and diagnostic procedures. Okay, so what we will do is, Sangmesh, that if you have seen those lectures, there's a lecture, if you have read it or not by now, on the clinical management of abnormal uterine bleeding. I have done a separate lecture on that. Again, given MCQs. I don't know if you're watching the main videos or you're watching the rapid revision videos, because in my main videos, Sangmesh, I have done question solving in the end also. I've tried to tell you how to approach questions. Those questions are mostly, yeah, a couple of them are on the tougher side, and I've kept them purposely there so that, while watching the video, you can understand that even tough questions sometimes, or questions that apparently seem too long to read, can be attempted easily. So again, there's a separate video on clinical management of AUB in reproductive age group, in postmenopausal women, postcoital bleeding also there's a separately I have discussed, right? So go through that, okay? Mandal, how much was the strike rate from prep ladder rapid revision videos this year? I think that is something that you'll have to, again, social media is brimming with these strike rates, okay? And regarding strike rates, again, see, the point of the matter is, I think on an average, most of the questions are covered. Majority of the questions, upward to 90%, are covered in the rapid revision videos, okay? Now, the other thing is for Akshay, when you Dr. Mandal, when you ask such a question, is that, when you read a topic, just keep in mind, when you read a previous year topic, a frequently asked area, high weightage subject, your preparation should be such that when you're reading that topic, any question that comes, okay, because again, never, see, we do not predict question paper. None of the faculty can predict a question paper, okay. But what we do know is these are the frequently asked areas. Your prep should be in a manner that when you read a topic, a question given to you in any permutation, combination of situations or scenarios, you should able to attempt it. That is why again and again I emphasize on conceptual understanding, okay. When a patient scenario is given to you, in real life situation also when a patient is given to you, it is not a flow chart, okay. It is more or less, the clinical concept that will help you in the differential diagnosis approach, or let's say to make a diagnosis. If diagnosis is asked, to answer what is the next step, what is the next best step. Okay, now the answer to such question changes with the clinical scenario. You have to understand that, and that is where they are testing you these days. They are twisting the questions, they're twisting some keywords, and then you realize that the answers are changing with these words. What is the next step? What is the next best step? Based on what the scenario is talking about, and there can be n number of permutation combinations to that. Okay. Fine. So I think we have spent an hour with this session, and a lot of you, I think, have logged out. And I think now I'll wrap this session up. All right. And hopefully you understand the gist of what I'm trying to tell you here. What I'm trying to tell you here is that you have to study smart in the end, okay? Not necessarily everything, right? And challenge yourself about the way that you are reading. That is the last thing that I would say. Thank you so much.